Breaking news, American students are getting dumber through no fault of their own. Let's take Baltimore as one example. Though Baltimore Public Schools had a $1.6 billion budget in 2022, which comes out to about $22,000 per student, new testing scores show 0 students in 23 different schools across the city are proficient in math. 93% of 3rd through 8th graders also tested below grade level in math. Wow. But this isn't just a Baltimore problem, it's an American education, or should I say miseducation problem, and it's not hard to figure out why. COVID lockdowns, remote learning, greedy teachers unions, and a woke agenda that puts gender identity, CRT, and LGBT above reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's how we got here. So how do we get out? Joining me now is former tenured professor at Princeton and Vanderbilt Universities and best-selling author, Dr. Carol Swain. All right, things are not looking great for American students. And it's sad for a lot of us that are really hoping that maybe the next generation of learners is going to fix everything that we have going on in our country. But the test scores are really showing us otherwise. And it's starting out from a very early age, all the way up through the woke agenda in colleges. Is this reversible, Dr. Swain? I want some optimism from you.
Well, first of all, I can be optimistic. The world would be saved by children that were educated at home or in classical Christian schools or some private schools that have not gone woke. So there will be children that will know how to think, that will understand math, that will be able to lead because they understand our Constitution. They have been raised by parents who took action. But for kids who are in public schools, the outcome is dismal. And after the COVID lockdowns, the national, what do they call it, NAEP, the educational scores, there was an 8-point drop in math that erased all the gains of the 2000s. And many of the experts say that the children will not recover, and it will impact the states, the economy of the states, because you have these kids that if you don't learn 8th grade math, then you're sort of doomed for a track. And it's always possible to overcome. It takes a lot of work to overcome. And I was a high school dropout. I was an overcomer. I completed the 8th grade, but I had to take remedial math, when I was in college. So, it can be done, but it's difficult. And for most of these kids, they're not in families that have the resources where they can bring in the tutors, or maybe the young person may not have the fire in the belly to achieve. And if you look at, when I was young, I believed in America. I believed if you worked hard, it made a difference. I could have the American dream. We're telling young people that America is an evil country, and there is no American dream that's being presented to young people today in the way it was when I was young, 100 years ago.
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of incentive for students to excel in schools. We're seeing example after example. In LA, they want to get rid of honors programs over a lack of diversity. We talked about this at the Fox Nation Miseducation Summit, but I'm sure that it's got to be so incredibly insulting when we hear, hey, listen, we don't have diversity in these programs, so instead of trying to lift people up so that they can excel, we're just going to eliminate the programs. What does that say to minority students, minority communities, when they say, listen, you're behind, so we'll just eliminate any opportunity that you would have to excel?
Well, first of all, it's not just LA. In Northern Virginia, they did not notify the National Merit Scholars because they believed in equity. And so since everyone couldn't be a National Merit Scholar, they did not allow the children that actually met the standard to be able to take advantage of that. And it's racist to believe that racial and ethnic minorities cannot qualify for gifted classes, advanced placement, scholarships, these kinds of things. And so the whole reasoning behind CRT is racist at its core. And the messages that are sent to racial and ethnic minorities, they are being told that standards have to be not just lowered, but almost eliminated. We have Bill Gates, the Gates Foundation, funding ethnomathematics, research that argues that math is racist, and depending on your culture, you may get a different answer to a math equation. And you think about every profession in the world, including art, requires knowledge of mathematics. And you have blacks and every racial and ethnic group in just about every field. You have black scientists, you have black mathematicians, doctors, lawyers, every field, architects. Even the pharmacist needs to know math. If
Right.
not, they're going to kill someone. And so you have people doing these fields. They have been able to meet the standards, but now racial and ethnic minorities are being told that math is racist, and standards need to be either lowered or eliminated, which means that it's going to hurt the next generation, because if they internalize that, they're not going to apply themselves. If I had believed that the world was stacked against me, that math was racist, that I could not learn, why put forth the effort?
I wonder what the motivation behind all of this is, because you're exactly right. We're telling people, students of all colors, that, hey, you don't need to reach this level, because if you do reach this level and you're a certain color, then that's unfair. And if you don't reach it because you're a certain color, that's because it's always going to be unfair towards you. But I wonder what the motivation is. And I wonder also why there is such pushback from the left against school choice and charter schools and opportunities for people, especially in traditionally disadvantaged communities, to be able to pick their school. What do you think the motivation behind all of it is?
I think that the ultimate motivation is not about trying to benefit racial and ethnic minorities. I think it is rooted in the culture of Marxism. It's being pushed by people who hate America, who believe that there should be no world power, who would like to see America fall. And so I think the Marxism is at the root, and they use conflict theory. Everything they do is about getting people to be at each other's throats. Whites against blacks, males against females, heterosexuals against homosexuals. Everything is about causing conflict. And it's nothing about making life better for racial and ethnic minorities. And this whole idea, the progressives have always been racist. And the racism that they once focused on racial and ethnic minorities, now they've turned it against white people. And maybe before you were born, back in the 70s, after affirmative action, white people started complaining about reverse racism. The world laughed when white people said they were being discriminated against because of affirmative action. Well, I can tell you that white people are being discriminated against through these DEI and CRT programs, and bullying and shaming white people, that is against the law, because we have a Civil Rights Act, we have civil rights laws, we have an Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. It is not acceptable, it's not American to bully or shame anyone, yet we see progressives right now, they've decided that to advance their agenda, they must have whites and blacks at each other's throats, hopefully for them hating each other. And then this equity is not equal opportunity. In my day, what we wanted and what we fought for was non-discrimination, an end to discrimination, equal opportunity. We were taught to believe in a meritocracy. They don't believe in a meritocracy. They say minorities are unable to compete, and they have to deal with the fact that there have been so many successful minorities. Those of us who have been successful under the non-discrimination, equal opportunity regime, they try to erase our accomplishments. And it's an evil system. No one benefits from it. The only people that benefit from it are America's enemies.
Right. And what always seems to be white liberals who were at the top of this food chain here, telling people that average white people are bad, but that they are the saviors of every other ethnic group out there. I mean, it's time and time again.
They're the useful idiots.
Right.
They're the useful idiots, because some of them are sincere. But I can tell you that there are some progressives that or liberals from the 1960s, 1970s, very much involved in the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement was an honorable action and cause to be involved in. They will tell you, this is not what I fought for. This is not what I want. And I would say that the progressives manipulate a lot of the sentiments of liberals. They use lies. What they're doing would not work if they didn't have the legacy media willing to lie for them and cover up the truth. Because when you present people with the truth, and even with the lies of the legacy media, people know what's happening in schools, and whether you're a Democrat or Republican or where you are on the ideological spectrum, you care about your children. You love your children. You don't want them bullied and shamed because of the color of their skin or because of something that allegedly their ancestors may or may not have done. It's an evil system, and it is not serving the interests of Americans. But a lot of the liberals that we see, they've been indoctrinated by progressives steeped in cultural Marxism, and so they parrot. Like, that's why they don't want to debate a conservative. They don't want to debate anyone that can pull out data, because they have been trained just to repeat certain phrases.
Yeah, no, they absolutely have. And I think that the best example of that is our Vice President, Kamala Harris, who says a whole lot of nothing, but she spins it in such a way, to me, it doesn't sound articulate or it doesn't sound intellectual, but she has people fooled.
Well, look at the
well.
press secretary. I mean, what the Democrats have done through Joe Biden and his diversity cabinet is totally undermine just this whole idea of equality, that minorities can compete, because he has taken the most incompetent Pete Buttigieg, and I know his name, but I'm going to call him Buttigieg anyway. I mean, all of these people are incompetent. He could have chose racial and ethnic minorities and homosexuals and lesbian people that had qualifications, that were qualified, that that are not out there, that the most important thing about them is their sexual identity, and so I have to talk about my sexual identity because that's my most important accomplishment. No, there are people from every walk of life that have practiced non-discrimination, have perfected being good on their jobs, and so those kind of people have been marginalized in favor of those that are flamboyant, like that Sam Brinton, the luggage guy.
Yeah, the luggage thief, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of people that they want. And what they're doing is they're undermining the success of racial, ethnic, and political minorities who have fought hard. Look what they're doing to women. They're destroying women's sports. And the feminists, like so many of the feminists are silent. Some of the oldest feminists who have spoken up, they have marginalized and canceled those feminists who actually fought the battle that the young people are benefiting from. And so this whole idea, this ludicrous idea that a man can be a woman, that a man can give birth, and that you can change your sex, it's insane. It's not rooted in science. And for years, they mocked Christians. We were the ones that were supposed to be anti-science. And you see, what anti-science really means, that they reject science when it serves their agenda. And what they're doing is dumbing down education for every American child and every person, who is keeping their mouth silent because they don't want to be canceled. They don't want to be laughed at. They're ludicrous. I mean, it's an endless source of material for brave comedians just watching the left.
So in conclusion, because we know that it seems to be a downward spiral, but there are, as you mentioned, a lot of parents that Democrat, Republican, white, black, brown, doesn't matter, parents who care about their children, who don't want their children learning CRT, don't want their children questioning their gender, want their students to actually learn and excel and have social skills, economic skills, professional skills. What do you tell those parents in a way that they can make a positive impact on their student and make a change outside of running for office? Because I know that's always the thing, but a lot of parents, they can't run for school board.
They don't have to run for office. I think the parents are doing an excellent job, that they have created this movement, this awareness about CRT and DEI and the sexualization of our children, the fact that even first graders are being presented with books about suicide. I would like to leave your audience with a cause for optimism, and that's from the young people that I've met that are part of Turning Point USA, Black Set, Prager Force, Clara Luce Booth, Young America's Foundation. I mean, I could go on, and there are organizations and young people that I've met, some of them as young as 9 years old. I mean, these are our warriors. And think about, there's seems to be a revival taking place at Asbury College, Cedarville, various places where young Christians are seeing the evil in this world. They're seeing, the evil that we all have within ourselves because we're imperfect. And they are, seeking God's help, seeking God's wisdom, confessing their sins, And I know enough from my own faith walk, and I had my Christian conversion experience in my 40s, is that I say Jesus is my superpower. They will have supernatural strength. It might be possible to turn America around. It would take a revival.
Well, I hope that you're right about that, and you're right because I do.
I'm usually right.
You are, and I also speak to a lot of those college kids and high school kids, and there is an excitement there because there is a battle to be fought and a war to be fought. Now, I promise this is the last thing, but I have to get your reaction to, you mentioned having your faith journey in your 40s. Well, according to Don Lemon, if you are beyond 40 years old, you are no longer in your prime. I have to get your take on that when he said last week that Nikki Haley being 51 years old was past her prime.
I'll take 50. I don't know what he would say about me. I'm a dinosaur. He doesn't think Pelosi is past her prime, or Hillary Clinton, or Joe Biden. And so, I mean, it's just ludicrous. Don Lemon is a joke. He would not have his job now if it weren't for the fact that he leads with his sexual identity. I really loved Don Lemon before he decided to come out of the closet and become an idiot. Before that, he was a pretty good reporter. I had a lot of respect for him. When he came out of the closet and decided that his sexual identity was more important than anything else in the world, he became an idiot.
He did, and you're right, he led with that. It was always a part of him, but when he chose to lead with that, and then now these comments, I mean, offending pretty much every woman out there, even if you are under 50 years old, he offended a lot of women, and I think he's paying the price for that.
But I mean, there's so many other things he's done that he should have paid the price for. And but I do remember him before he came out of the closet, and it's just when the LGBT activists decided, that they were going to make it all about them, I think it hurt everyone that's a member of that community, because I'm 68 years old. You're supposed to be shocked.
I am honestly shocked because you look absolutely fantastic.
Okay, but I've always known members of the LGBT community. I even went to a dance once with a gay guy. We were the best looking couple there. I can't dance, so we weren't going to win any awards, but this whole thing, the LGBT people that I've known, for the most part, they were just like everyone else. They worked hard, and they were not, the ones that I saw were not treated hateful because of their sexual identity, but they didn't lead with that. Right. I mean, they just worked like everyone else on doing a good job. And so what's happened now is very harmful to them, and it sets the wrong example. And there is so much grooming that is taking place in this transgenderism, in the mutilation of kids, all of these things that are taking place, it's evil. And more of us need to find our voice and take the risk and speak up.
And I know that you said that you're not going to be running for office anytime soon, but I will say it again for the world to hear. If you so choose to run for an office in Nashville or Tennessee, you have my full support. But thank you, Dr. Swain, for being in Nashville, for always being a voice of reason, for always being on Fox News, and again being that voice of reason. And whatever you do for your skincare regimen, everybody wants to know, because Don Lemon would look at you and think that you're 35. I guarantee you that. Thank you so much for being here.
According to him, I passed my prime. I'm just hitting my stride.
Exactly. And exactly you are. All right, still ahead. Today is President's Day, and I've got some special final thoughts for Joe. That's next.